The air was thick with the bitter scent of rain and damp earth, as if the heavens themselves were mourning the loss that had shaken our family to its core. I stood beside the weathered granite tombstone, my hands clenched tight around a single white lily, struggling to keep my emotions tethered. Around me, the muted murmurs of distant relatives blended with the soft rustling of leaves, but none of it could pierce the heavy silence that had settled between me and my sister, Vanessa. The funeral of Grandma Mabel was supposed to bring us together, but instead it revealed the invisible cracks that had always existed beneath the surface. Vanessa, tall and sharp, pied as ever, looked every bit the part of the socialite she aspired to be. Perfectly styled hair, designer coat, and that cold, calculating smile she wore like armor. I felt the weight of her gaze, full of something I couldn't quite name: amusement, contempt, jealousy. We weren't close, Vanessa and I, never had been, but that day her disdain cut deeper than ever. "You really think Grandma left you anything worth having?" She sneered quietly enough so only I could hear. Her voice was a mix of condescension and smug certainty. "I mean, let's be real. All you ever did was bake and dream. You're probably only getting her damn cookbooks." I swallowed the lump rising in my throat, my fingers tightening around the lily's fragile stem. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them, as if my entire worth was wrapped up in flour and sugar, something trivial and laughable. I had spent countless afternoons in Grandma Mabel's warm kitchen, learning the art of patience and love baked into every recipe. Those moments were precious to me. To Vanessa, they were nothing but a joke. The small crowd began to disperse as the service ended, and the lawyer's assistant appeared, clipboard in hand, ready to guide us to the reading of the will. Vanessa's eyes gleamed with anticipation. I saw her lips curl into a satisfied smirk as she whispered again, "Cookbooks, that's all you're getting." The grand house where the will would be read was just a few blocks away, the same house where Grandma Mabel had lived alone for years after Grandpa passed. Its walls held decades of memories, secrets, and unspoken truths. Vanessa practically skipped through the door, eager to claim whatever fortune she was certain awaited her. I followed behind, quiet and unsure, my heart heavy with a strange mixture of hope and dread. Inside the lawyer's office, the atmosphere was stiff and formal. Mr. Hayward, the elderly man who had served as our grandmother's attorney for over 20 years, cleared his throat and opened a worn leather folder. "As you all know," he began, voice grave but steady, "Grandma Mabel was a woman of great principle and deep love for her family. Her will reflects not only her wishes, but also her keen insight into those she trusted most." Vanessa's eyes never left the folder, her fingers drumming impatiently on her knee. I kept my gaze fixed on the dark mahogany table, trying to calm the whirlwind of thoughts storming through my mind. He read aloud the standard provisions first. The house would be sold and the proceeds split evenly, some charitable donations to causes Grandma held dear, and a small annuity for each of us. Then came the part that made Vanessa snort softly. "To my granddaughter Ella, Mr. Hayward said, I leave a safe located in the study of my house. Inside this safe is a collection of items and documents I believe only she can understand and appreciate." Vanessa burst out laughing. "A safe? What's inside? More recipes?" Her voice was loud, brash, the mockery clear. "I swear, Grandma must have thought you were the family chef. Enjoy your cookbooks, Ella." I felt my cheeks burn, the sting of humiliation like fire beneath my skin. But something inside me refused to crumble. I looked at the lawyer, then at the small, locked safe resting on the floor beside his desk. A sturdy, unassuming metal box with a thick combination lock. "That's all," Vanessa scoffed, standing abruptly. "This is a joke. I'll be happy to take care of Grandma's other assets while you enjoy your cooking lessons." Before I could respond, the lawyer raised a hand. "Vanessa, please, the will is final. The safe's contents are to be revealed only to Ella at her discretion." Vanessa's face twisted with irritation. "Fine. Have your little mystery box, then. But don't come crying when you find nothing but old recipes." The room was suddenly heavy with silence, the kind that follows a storm. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange flicker of determination. Vanessa's words had been cruel, but maybe, just maybe, the real treasure was yet to be uncovered. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the air cool and fresh. As Vanessa strode away, arms crossed, triumphant in her certainty, I stayed behind with the safe, the last tangible connection to Grandma Mabel's legacy. I didn't know then what secrets lay waiting inside, but I knew this was only the beginning. The morning after the funeral was thick with silence in the little town where Grandma Mabel had lived. I had avoided Vanessa all day, retreating into a quiet corner of my small apartment to gather my thoughts. The safe sat heavily on the floor beside me, a cold and unyielding reminder that my inheritance wasn't going to be some simple, expected windfall. It was a puzzle, a challenge, and I felt strangely drawn to it. With trembling fingers, I knelt beside the safe. The combination was written in the letter from the lawyer, a code Grandma had left me, trusting that I would be the one to find it. The numbers clicked into place, one by one. A small metallic clunk echoed through the quiet room as the door swung open. Inside, I found a collection of worn, leather-bound cookbooks, their pages yellowed and brittle with age. The familiar smell of aged paper and old ink filled the air, instantly transporting me back to Grandma's cozy kitchen, where afternoon light filtered through lace curtains and the scent of cinnamon and vanilla always lingered. Vanessa had been right, at least on the surface. There were cookbooks, lots of them. But beneath those books, carefully tucked between their pages and bindings, were slips of paper, envelopes, and small packages, hidden with such care it was clear Grandma had intended them to be found only by someone who truly cared enough to look. I gingerly pulled out the first item, a faded envelope with my name written in Grandma's elegant script. Inside was a set of old stock certificates, yellowed with time, but still bearing the embossed seals of companies I barely recognized. Then came a bundle of property deeds, land and homes Grandma had owned quietly, some even in neighboring towns. I realized suddenly that the value of these assets dwarfed any monetary inheritance Vanessa might have been expecting. My heart quickened as I carefully unfolded a delicate letter, its edges worn. It was a handwritten note from Grandma Mabel herself. "Dear Ella," it began, "if you are reading this, it means you have found my hidden treasures. You have always had a special place in my heart, not because you could bake, but because you have a kindness and strength that I have seen in no one else. Vanessa, your sister, has always been charming, but I feared she never truly understood what it means to care for family beyond the surface. This safe holds what I could not entrust to her. There is one last secret, the key to a lakeside cottage I have kept for many years, a place of peace and memories. You are the rightful heir to that refuge, guard it well." A small, ornate key fell from the letter. I held it tightly, feeling a surge of emotions, sorrow, relief, hope. But the revelations didn't end there. Buried deep in the back of one cookbook, I discovered a rare first edition book, a collector's item worth far more than I could have imagined. And tucked inside the back cover, a series of old photographs showed Grandma Mabel with a younger Vanessa, posing not as sisters, but as two women caught in moments of subtle tension and unspoken conflict. There were more letters, too, written by Grandma Mabel over the years. They revealed how Vanessa had subtly manipulated her in the final years, coaxing her to make decisions that favored Vanessa's desires while hiding the truth. Tears blurred my vision as I realized the depth of the deception. Vanessa's confident mockery wasn't just cruel. It was a smokescreen hiding her greed and duplicity. But now I held the power to uncover the full truth. The inheritance was not what Vanessa thought. It was a testament to Grandma's love for me and her wisdom in protecting what mattered most. I sat back, exhausted but resolute. The safe had revealed its secrets, but there was more to come. The lakeside cottage, the last piece of the puzzle, awaited. And I would find it. The road to the lakeside cottage was long and winding, lined with towering pines and the soft whispers of nature that seemed to hush the world around me. The small key from the safe fit perfectly into the ancient lock of the weathered gate, as if waiting decades just for this moment. I stepped inside, the air heavy with the scent of pine needles and distant water. The cottage stood modest and quiet, a forgotten relic nestled beside the shimmering lake's edge. Its wooden walls were worn but sturdy, and the windows reflected the soft glow of the late afternoon sun. Inside, the house was a time capsule, dusty shelves lined with old books, faded quilts draped over furniture, and the faint smell of lavender and wood smoke lingering in the air. I wandered through each room slowly, feeling the weight of memories I had never known, but could somehow feel coursing through the walls. On a small table in the corner of the living room sat a leather-bound journal. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing Grandma Mabel's neat handwriting, flowing with stories, advice, and reflections. In the pages, she spoke of her life, the joys, the hardships, and the burdens she had borne quietly. More importantly, she revealed the reasons for her choices in the will. She had always been wary of Vanessa's ambition, a fire that burned bright but without compassion. Grandma wrote of the subtle manipulations Vanessa had used to control family decisions, even in Mabel's final years. But the journal was full of praise for me, not because of the cookbooks I'd inherited, but because of the qualities I embodied: kindness, patience, creativity, and loyalty. She wrote that these traits made me the true heir to the family's legacy. There was more detailed records of the properties I now owned, accounts of investments, and plans Grandma had made to ensure the family's wealth would remain intact and used wisely. But the most touching entry was a final letter addressed not only to me but to Vanessa too, to my daughters who I love despite your differences. It began, "Ella, you are the heart of this family's future. Vanessa, I hope you find the strength to see beyond what you desire and find peace with what you have." Tears streamed down my face as I read. For years I had felt overshadowed, dismissed, and mocked. But here, in this quiet lakeside retreat, I understood the true meaning of inheritance. It was more than money or property. It was trust, it was love, it was hope. I turned to the last page, where a faded photograph lay tucked between the pages. It was Grandma Mabel, smiling warmly, holding a young version of me in her arms. A smile tugged at my lips. For the first time, I felt the legacy was truly mine, a gift that Vanessa could never take away. Back in town, news of my discovery spread quickly. Vanessa's confidence faltered as whispers grew. She had expected the fortune to be hers, and instead, the truth was laid bare. Everything valuable, the land, the money, the real legacy, was mine. But I wasn't sure if I felt triumph or sadness. The family I had longed to be a part of was fractured, and the wounds ran deep. The courtroom was packed with relatives, neighbors, and curious onlookers, all buzzing with the scandal that had erupted since the will was read. Vanessa sat at the plaintiff's table, her posture rigid, eyes flashing with anger and desperation. She had filed a challenge to the will, claiming it was forged, that Grandma Mabel was not of sound mind when she wrote it, anything to wrest control of the inheritance back into her hands. But I was ready. The letters, the stock certificates, the property deeds, and most importantly, the journals and letters from Grandma Mabel herself had all been submitted as evidence. My lawyer meticulously laid out the case, piece by piece, exposing Vanessa's manipulations and deceptions. The letters revealed how Vanessa had coerced Grandma Mabel in her final years, a fact the judge found deeply troubling. As the trial wore on, Vanessa's confident facade cracked. Witness after witness testified about Vanessa's relentless greed and cold behavior towards Grandma in her last days. It became clear that Vanessa had never cared for the family legacy beyond what she could personally gain. The final blow came when Grandma's handwritten letter to both of us was read aloud, a poignant reminder of her true wishes and the qualities she valued most. Vanessa's face paled as the courtroom murmured in empathy for me, the quiet sister who had endured her ridicule and emerged stronger. When the judge ruled in my favor, affirming the validity of the will and confirming my sole ownership of the lakeside cottage and all other assets, a wave of relief and vindication washed over me. But I didn't gloat. Revenge wasn't about cruelty, it was about justice and healing. Months later, I stood on the porch of the lakeside cottage, the sun casting a golden glow over the water. I had transformed the house into a cooking retreat, naming it Mabel's Table in honor of the woman who had quietly shaped our family's destiny. The retreat was a dream, a place where young women with little family support could come to learn not just to cook, but to find confidence, community, and hope. One crisp autumn morning, a package arrived addressed to Vanessa. Inside was a beautifully bound copy of my first published cookbook, inscribed with a simple note, "For the sister who taught me resilience and the meaning of legacy. May you one day understand what truly matters." Vanessa never responded, but I felt no need for further confrontation. The safe had been opened, secrets revealed, and the legacy restored to where it belonged, with love, kindness, and truth. In the end, Grandma Mabel's greatest recipe was not for a cake or a pie, but for a life lived with integrity, and I was finally ready to live mine.